Hey Queens, welcome to Get Shit Done.
Hey, thanks for
What
having
up?
me.
I am so excited because these are two good friends. Evie, we've known each other longer and been places. And then Tanya, you and I are newish friends, but have a really good bond. And I'm grateful for. I just saw you in New York. And
Mm.
I'm really excited you're both here to talk about a really sticky topic that I think gets airtime, but before we were recording, like in the kind of I don't think it's intentional, but in the kind of fluffy toxic positivity way where it's very surface level. And I know when I went through my own mental health breakdown, I was just like, I don't know really where to turn to. But before we get into the heavy shit, I just want to do a check in with y'all. So, um, yeah, if you could rate on a scale 1 to 10, how are you feeling mental health wise in this moment? And let's start with Evie.
I think I'm a solid seven, which is I think what makes me feel proud about saying a solid like seven, 7.5 is because even a number of months ago, I would have been at the bottom of that spectrum. And so there's been like a big jump this year in particular, this summer in particular was really kind of like it threw hands.
It threw
And
hands.
so it threw hands. And so I'm at a proud seven. I would say a proud seven right now because I know where I was not that long ago.
Yes, Tanya, how about you?
Like a solid 8.5. I went to an event yesterday called Woo as Medicine, and I pulled two tarot cards. One is called the Fourth Power, I Am Beloved. It means you are valued, cherished, embrace recognition and love coming your way. And the other one is Evergreen, Stability, Resilience, and Enduring Growth. Stay grounded and nurture what lasts. I was like, okay, I needed to hear that.
Yes, I think I just told you this a couple days in New York that I do my own tarot for me every week to just set the intent. Like, what do I need to focus on this week? Every week it's on point. Every single week it's on point. Like, this is what some shit's gonna come up for you. I like this. I like the. I would say I'm also at a solid seven. I love what you said, Evie, around throwing hands. I'm in a throwing hands period with the universe where I'm not throwing hands. I feel like it's throwing hands at me,
Mhm.
but in the best way possible, because it's asking me, okay, you want these things, we have to shift some things around. And I feel like, okay, I just did this 3 years ago, we're doing it again. Like,
Yeah.
I literally told a friend, I was like, I literally want no growth 2025, and that's not happening. Like, everyone's talking about growing, and I'm like, I don't want to grow anymore, I just want to chill. But that's not in the cards for me. So I like this, I love this energy. And I would love for the audience to get a little bit about context for both of you and your little bit about your story of how you got here. So yeah, Tanya, let's start with you in terms of, yeah, as a founder, what is your business?
I'm the founder and CEO of West by East. We're a fashion tech company that enables bespoke clothing brands to scale customization. And I started the business over 5 years ago using my wedding as a launch pad. And then we were
Love it.
hit by the pandemic, which was utter chaos. But we navigated through it and yeah, raised venture capital and did a massive rebrand and relaunch with the Times Square billboard last year.
Yes, we love it. And Evie, how about you?
Yeah, so I am Evita Robinson, also affectionately known as Evie. And I'm the founder of NoMadness Travel Tribe. We are currently about 40,000 members around the world of Black and Brown travelers. We have a lot of pillars to what we've done from group trips to a festival, NoMadness Fest, that we executed five of. We actually took a break in 2025 so that this year could kind of teach us what it was and what it was going to be. And it was probably the best decision that we could have made. Um, we also are big into storytelling. As of this point, the community has also boosted brand partnerships with different destinations and tourism boards. And so I am now a two-time Emmy Award winning, as of this summer, storyteller that really is big on digging into communities of color in destinations and making sure that they have a voice, representation. We make sure their stories and their swag all come to the forefront so that we diversify in the tourism industry. And so synopsis of the work that I do in the community that I serve.
Yes, we love this. Well, as you all know, we always have bad bitches on this podcast, so clearly my friends are cool. Anywho, I'm excited to have this conversation. I had posted something on LinkedIn about like what a mental health breakdown looks like, and you already know I haven't been on Instagram or anything except LinkedIn for like 5 years now. And so it was like this cute picture. My eyebrows look good. The lighting was great on the outside. It's like, oh, she's cute. But then it was like on the inside, I'm dying inside. And I think that's when we think about mental health breakdowns and also in pop culture, it is someone literally losing their shit. And I think that's a version. And I think that's when people are pushed very far. But I think the thing that we don't talk about enough is a lot of mental health breakdowns are things that accumulate over time, and a lot of founders are actually suffering in silence. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation, and grateful to both of you for raising your hands to say, yeah, let's talk about this. So as we jump in, I'm just curious, when you all hear like mental health breakdown for founders, like what comes up for you?
Um, Identification, uh, understanding.
I
Been
see you.
there, been there, done that. You know, I think that's really kind of what comes up for me. Empathy, honestly, if I had to kind of put it in one word, business owners know what business owners go through. And it's one of those things where I feel like you can have an idea, but unless you are one and in that circumstance, then you're not really going to know exactly what the experience is like. And so, I say that flippantly, but I think underneath it all is empathy.
Yes. How
Mm.
about you, Tanya?
Mental health breakdown. When I hear that, it means you've pushed yourself so hard that you lose control of yourself and you get lost in the grind and you stop prioritizing your own needs and you're no longer operating in a place of clarity and you've completely abandoned yourself.
Yes. It's interesting because as founders, we have to, I think you have to be interested in some form of control in a way. Because I know for me, when I started, I was dealing, my first company was when I was 19. My dad had passed away. It was a way for me to kind of put those feelings somewhere else. And I felt like I had control over something. But I realized over time, my version of control was I feel like I can control everything. So I'm just going to work really hard. I'm going to push really hard. And a lot of those times I realized it accumulated and compounded over time that I was really harming myself to the point that I started I distinctly remember this. I was living in Williamsburg. I was walking to my gym one day and walking back, and my schedule was literally back to back to back with things. It was like there was no room for me to rest. I was constantly in meetings, even between like going to the gym. It was like I would be rushing home because I was hopping on another call or doing another seminar or whatever it is. And as I was rushing home from the gym, I just remember things started caving in on me. And I was like, whoa. And then so I just slowed down, and then I started walking home slower, and then it stopped. And then I was fine. But then a week later it happened again, and I started having panic attacks every single day until I talked to my therapist, who was just like, Alex, this is your body. Like, this is not a coincidence. This is something that's built up over time. You need to slow down, and you need to be in a space to slow down. But you need to be in an environment that lets you do that. And I was in New York at the time. And as much as I love New York, New York is not a slow down city. It's not a slow down
Mhm.
city. Like, where can you have these it's energetic. It's like one of the most energetic places on earth. And so that's what led me to like, okay, let me go to Mexico. Let me go somewhere where I can actually slow down. So even when I hear mental health breakdown, I agree with both of you. It's like you're pushing yourself so much. I can empathize with it, but I think what we don't think about or talk enough about is that a lot of this shit is not just a one-time event. It is how have we been treating ourselves over time for that event to get to that moment. So I'm curious for both of you, like, do you have a specific example of a mental health breakdown that you experienced while building your business? And what did that look like and feel like? How did it show up in your business?
That's interesting because listening to your story, so I have anxiety. But I've had anxiety. I had my first full-blown panic attack when I was in college and I was rushed to the hospital for it. I've been to the hospital twice for panic attacks in my adultish life. And at one point was even given some type of medication that I ended up after like 2 weeks, ended up just like flushing down the toilet. It didn't work for me. It was doing other things to my body, but I
Yep.
have friends where it works amazingly for. And if meds is the way to go, I
Mhm.
absolutely feel that that supplemental with environmental changes, schedule changes, lifestyle changes, working out is a big thing for me. I am, starting off this call talking about tarots. I too am another tarot reader and, of myself, but also like astrology. I'm like an Aries sun, Aries moon, Leo rising. I'm triple fire. And so even
No
some of
chill.
my like, yeah, like it's like people who know what that means are like, so how do you like regulate? I'm like, yeah, even to the point where even through my blood work, like I have certain stress hormones that for me, my baseline is higher than other people. So there's literally a biological component to a lot of this stuff. And I think it's important on an actual health level that people know what their baselines are for a lot of this stuff because it can inform how your body is reacting to certain things. But your story made me think of how I've been navigating anxiety and panic attacks way before I ever became an entrepreneur. And while that is scary and it was horrific in college, what it did do though is it forced me at a very young age to find coping mechanisms, to understand that this is your body's alarm clock, to try to stop you before you get to the point of break, right?
Yep.
To let you know something's off, your equilibrium is not there. And so I would say that in many ways, and my mother told me this because it runs in my family as well. My mother told me this when I was like 19, 20, having them. She was like, one day you're going to be grateful for your anxiety. And I was like, never. Literally, I feel like I'm fucking dying. Like, she was like, one day, because you're going to understand its function more. And so now
Mhm.
at 41, being now with 20 years of my life, having, anxiety and knowing how to regulate it in therapy and everything, it's the alarm clock where I'll have a certain symptom and be like, shut it all down. Shut it down. Like,
Yes.
it just is what it is. And, in identifying one particular time as a entrepreneur, I'll go with, last year. Last year was a particularly insane year financially. We were doing our festival, No Madness Fest in Charlotte, who were a great partner, and this was not them that this happened with. But we had two long-term, multi-year financial partners that we had worked with. One of them ghosted us on almost $40,000 worth of invoices 6 weeks before our event.
Oof.
The other one had a mishap internally after giving our account over to another person who had gotten approval for the cost of their build out at our event and never got approval for the cost of sponsorship of our event to show up.
Wow.
And so we were put in a position where 6 weeks before this festival, there's almost $50,000 that is unaccounted for. And I ended up having to go into my own personal finances to make sure that last year's festival actually happened. And so it was a bottom for me in a number of ways. It was also I'm never allowing this to ever happen again. It was also a moment of we need to break and recalibrate after this festival. And then something very big happened a couple months later, which was our festival's normally in September. Trump got reelected in November. 3 weeks later, we sent an email out to all of our partners that we were taking a year break from the festival for 2025 to focus on our real pivot, which is the destination storytelling, because they are trying to erase our stories and our communities day by day. And we feel that now is the time to rise to that occasion. But also, one of the background reasons was because he had made it clear that they were going to go after DEI.
Yep.
Our budget and funding from most of these destinations and brands comes directly from their
Mhm.
DEI marketing and depending on if we're hosting in their city, sometimes their sales department. And so we already knew, and I'm not one of those people. I have insane pattern recognition. So like I'm like I don't need to understand how bad this is going to get to understand that this is going to hit us after coming off of a $50,000 deficit in which I had to go in and clear out a number of my personal accounts to make sure that this happened. I'm not signing up for that immediately. I'm not running this boulder uphill on my back again, let alone under this administration. And so a week before our festival last year, I had a full blown breakdown. Ended up on the phone with somebody who was on my team, and I never wanted somebody on my team to see me. I'm vulnerable with my team, but that was like a lot. And she just sat with me and I cried for 2 hours straight. And I was like, this is not healthy. Again, somebody who's dealt with anxiety, who has been in therapy for the last 15 plus years. I was like, you are fighting against yourself. And so I had made the decision before I told my team that that festival was probably going to be our last festival, if not for a while.
Mm.
And I went there and executed that event with my team under that guise. And it was emotional for me. It was insightful. It was eye-opening for me. It was a event where I was saying hello, but in a weird way, I was saying goodbye for now, you know? But it pulled itself out of me. And I think also what changed for me turning 40, a lot changed turning 40, but that was also the year that I won my first Emmy for storytelling, which is what I've always wanted to do. And so sometimes when you're the face of your brand and what you've been created, it's what you're known for. It's also terrifying to try to move from that or to pivot from that or to end that. And
Yeah.
and I think that as founders, especially if we're the face of our brand, that is a very difficult facing. But I'm gonna tell you something, the body keeps the score.
It
Hmm.
does.
Keep not listening, it's going to
Hmm.
sit your ass down for you. And that's what ended
Yeah.
up happening for me. I had to make the hard decisions, have the hard conversations with my team and our partners, and
Mm.
start to make moves to start popping individual pillars one by one. And it came from a full-fledged breakdown a week before our biggest event last year.
I love this and thank you for sharing that because I just listened to something this morning that literally was like, when you're getting a lot of no's, a lot of times it's leading you to your next best yes. And I know for me, a lot of part of my breakdown was because I was trying to hold on so tightly to what I thought things should look like versus the universe literally trying to be like, bitch, I'm trying to navigate you to what you're saying you want, but it just doesn't look like what you expect. And you're not supposed to know. And that's what I'm still learning through and shedding from is trying so hardly to hold on what I think a yes should look like. I'm actually in this space right now. We have a lot of really solid yeses, but there's some things we went after that we're getting no's on. And unlike before, now I'm sitting back to be like, what is this no telling me? Instead of what I did before, I would freak out
Yeah.
being like, what's going to happen? I need to push towards the answer. Now I'm like, the answer is going to come. And that's super important instead of me pushing through. And Tanya, I'm curious about yours. What was a moment where you had a breakdown in your business?
Yeah, I mean, to add on to that, Alex, every rejection is a redirection because God has another plan for us. That's how
Yes.
I think about it. Um, for me in 2023, I was a first-time mommy who barely took maternity leave. My business was falling apart. Customers were upset. And one of my mentors, who was a customer at the time, told me, as the CEO, you need to know what's up. Your business partner is mismanaging my order. And that was the breaking point. And honestly, it had been a long time coming. I just never had the cojones to pull the trigger. And I'm a loyalist to a fault. And hearing that from someone I respect and admire forced me to confront the health of the business in a way I've been avoiding for several years. Um, I brought in two attorneys, an executive coach to end the partnership. It was brutal. Because I was exhausted being a mother to a newborn while also being a founder in survival mode. Um, and back then, I worked with brute force, following a blueprint of long hours and nonstop grind. Um, but I'm a relentless motherfucker and also a woman of color, a wife,
Period.
a mom. And I raised about $500,000, not several millions. And I was trying to build a brand and a tech company with far fewer resources compared to my counterparts of white tech bros. And then in 2024, I dismantled the entire business, rebuilt it. I hired a leadership team twice. The first time was a mess. The second time was successful. I learned that it's essential to hire folks who have experience in the industry that you're building in and obsessed with the product or service and believes in the company and more importantly, believes in you as the founder. Then I relaunched with the rebrand in Times Square. And that moment was surreal. A, a decade ago, I had moved to New York City with nothing, sleeping on friends' couches, cold floors. Seeing the billboard was proof I made it, but I was completely depleted. Um, and that same year, I started building a mental health team, which includes a therapist, executive coach, group therapy with other founders, personal trainer, peer mentorships, an Ayurvedic doctor. I focused on my health, started eating
Yes.
nutritious food, and took a month off in Europe with my husband and baby. And I finally created space for myself to start to heal again.
Yes. I love what you're both saying. It's like, again, it's not just one big moment. It's these moments that are building up that it's a lot of shit that's out of our control. Like everything happening in the world right now, there's just things that are being dismantled. And then also part of the culture has told us, I feel like the shit bag that millennials received, and God bless Gen Z, even though they are very emo and in their feels, what I do really appreciate about them is that they're just like, I feel how I feel, and I'm gonna go feel my feels. And millennials were told the opposite. You just push through, hustle, grind. And a lot of us became entrepreneurs. But to your point, Tanya, with the blueprint of you just go brute force, 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 force. And I'm curious for both of you, and a little bit has come up as you've been speaking, but what do you feel have been what were some of the signs you feel you missed? So I know for me, I say there's three waves. Usually when the universe is trying to give me signs, it comes first spiritually, then it comes mentally. Once it becomes physical, I've missed all the other signs or I push past them. And so by the time I started manifesting these panic attacks, I had missed all the other signs that were like, you need to slow down. Like now you're just blaring through the red lights now, and you are about to crash and hit the wall. Me crashing and hitting the wall is me having those panic attacks. So I'm curious, do you all feel like there were signs you missed in your journey of going through these breakdowns?
I
Well,
don't go ahead, because I'm gonna think
okay.
about this a little bit more.
Yeah. I don't I'm sure there were signs. I think I had a block. Like and I had a lot of suppressed traumas and things were just bubbling up to the surface after I gave birth. Because I'm becoming a new woman after having a child and I was having a hard time embracing that new journey because I was just dealing with everything else in terms of uh, the startup chaos. Um, and my doctor, I went to see my doctor and he warned me that he threatened me with a stent and then told me that I will have a heart attack between the age of 40 to 50 if I didn't make a drastic lifestyle change. And I wasn't feeling okay. I was disconnected from my partner, my child, and myself. I had, like both of you, I had panic attacks, anxiety attacks in 2023. Even walking up on a stage for a pitch competition in DC, um, I was having this anxiety attack, and it was getting to like the pinnacle, the top, while I was on stage, and I had to ask for permission for the audience for me to just sit down and just go through the pitch. I had no problem with the pitch; I knew it by heart. It was just I just didn't know how to control it in my body, and my body was screaming at me to stop. And I was completely out of touch with my mind and body. It was just massive disconnect. Um, yeah. And then
Yeah.
I think uh, that threat really made me start making those changes.
Isn't that the craziest thing? And I know we're all like thinking like, what was those? Because I think a lot of us like hindsight's 2020. It really is 2020. It's like we might be seeing it, but we're so in it. Like I had a mentor tell me this before I left my last company. She was like, Alex, you've been in it for so long, it's hard for you to be on top of it and you don't even
Mm.
realize it. And so it's hard to kind of know like this thing, I missed this thing until you look back. So Evie, did you have anywhere you were like, damn, I look back now and that was probably a red flag. That was a red flag.
Uh, I don't think I missed the flags. And I'm
Okay.
gonna say this. I think I'm gonna approach this from a different angle. I was having conversations with my flags for years
Ooh, put on a
before
shirt.
I did anything
Mm,
about it. And so I think that's what it is. I'm a pretty self-aware person. And again, because my anxiety and panics happened, they started at such a young age. By the time entrepreneurship came, it was just like, okay, yeah, like this shit's different, but like, but also like, let's implement what we can. I think my problem was never identifying them. My problem was railroading through them. And then what happened is I got to the point where I stopped railroading through them and I started conversing with them. Because mine is, I'm a creative. Like, I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm a creative, really. Like, writing books, doing pitching TV shows, an agent that's pitching books right now. Like, I am an artist and a creative really at heart. I even early in my career, I think it was Black Enterprise did an article where I was even dubbed like an accidental entrepreneur. I wanted to create community. I didn't know I was creating a business. Like I didn't go into it with that thought process. And so I said yes, and that's what led me to where we were. But for me, it's always started and been about the community. And so when I started to get suffocated, I can feel it. My body is very vocal with me. I have conversations, and I think also as an artist, we are in tapped and in tune with a lot of that part of ourselves. And I journal damn near daily, like, all of that stuff was in motion. But I think I was avoiding it for the sake of showing up for my community. I was avoiding it for the sake of being the face of this community and not wanting to disappoint them or abandon them. Abandonment came up a lot during that time. And that was a part of conversations I had with my team. One thing I'm very grateful for is picking great people to have around me. And so while I was going through this process, my team knew we would talk about it. Our meetings start, the first 5 minutes or so of our meetings are like, hey, what is going on in your life outside of this that we're getting ready to talk about? Is there something that you need to vent about? Like, I am very humanistic with the way that I approach leadership. And I've always been like that because I need that, right? I need that. And so in those conversations, I would talk candidly. And I remember when I finally came to the point of telling my team last year, I was like, look, we're not doing the festival next year. Like the biggest breadcrumb, that storytelling, which is what I want to do. That's my artistic goal. Like that's me coming home, right? Like I feel like I'm coming home to myself right now. Um, me winning an Emmy in that space, everybody was like, bitch, if the universe ever had to give you a breadcrumb, to let you know
It's a
that this
loaf.
is the direction.
Hmm.
like like follow the yellow brick road. Like and so I couldn't deny it. And I
Mm,
think turning 40 again at that time, you kind of go through this portal of fuck it. I think that happens around 40 as well. Of just like where you want to kind of like Issa Rae had this thing go viral last year where she was like, something happens between like 37 and 42 where you just want to blow your whole existence up. And like everything that you're
right.
known for, you just want to. I was in the thick of that. And
Mm.
um and so turning 40 was like also there was just a permission slip and coming on the other side of that of just like, bitch, if not now, when? And so I
Yes.
had to start and also the reminder of like, no, I run this shit. I created it, like I run this. And I think sometimes we relinquish that control and we allow everything to ebb and flow around us. And we're catching up here, we're going here. And it's like, nah. Come back. You run this. What does this have to look like for you to be satisfied, satiated, completed as a person? What changes need to make? I was avoiding that conversation for years.
Ah,
My team knew it. When I finally talked to them, they were like, one of them told me, they were just like, Evita, the one thing that we have watched you chase and not obtain over the last number of years working with you was time. And we
mm,
know that if you give yourself the time that you give to No Madness to be able to also build out this pillar of storytelling, there ain't no stopping you. And they were
yes.
just like, and we can't wait to see it, you know? And so that was really like I was having discourse with my red flags because I'm like,
Yeah.
how do we work together so that this isn't what this is right now?
This is so interesting. It's like whether we knew our red flags or not, the common theme is pushing through. It's like, what are we holding on to? What are we railroading through that we aren't ready to look at, or that we're just like, maybe we're moving towards this ideal of, I have to get there. I know I've done that. In any of my breakdowns, I have done that. It's because I'm chasing after this thing of, I have to be there before I do this other big transit. And it's funny, I actually sent Evie a voice note when I turned 35 this year. And I was literally like, this was the first birthday because I'm a Leo sun and rising Aquarius moon, and I am a love a birthday. I love everybody's birthday. And this birthday, I grieved so many parts of myself. It was the first birthday, like I usually am out, having a cocktail into my birthday. It's midnight. Woo! This year I was like, I'm going to the bathtub, and I cried my way into 35. And it was so cathartic. And it was interesting because I was grieving parts of myself that were so essential to where I am now. But in the last few years, I have been not at war with them, but in this, I have to let this go, or this part has to evolve because I don't want to live that way anymore. So that push, 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 that girl is the reason I've been in, dropped in all these different places and on stages, but it's also like, and I want to soften now. So I'm curious, when you all were going through this, and Evie, you mentioned this a little bit with your team, and Tanya, I'm curious about you. What was the response from the people around you during these times? Because I know for me, I go really inward, so I was taking a lot on by myself. And similar to you, Tanya, I had a therapist I was in Seattle visiting family. And I just remember it was 4 a.m. I could not sleep. I was so anxious. And I just sent her an email like, I need an emergency meeting, da 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 da. And we get on the call, and she was like, Alex, if you were sad or angry, I would think you're fine. She was like, what I'm concerned about is that you're numb right now. She's like, that's a scary place to be in. She was like, and you have two directions. She was like, we can either put you on some medicine. I believe in medicine, but I'm like, I feel like I'm giving a choice right now because I do know people that have hormonal issues. So like they need that. But I'm like, my therapist is literally saying, you keep doing this, we're going to have to medicate you, or we change things up. That was a huge sign. So telling my therapist that. I remember I was even in my mom's house at the time. I was staying in her room, just chopping it up to, I'm really tired, so I'm just going to binge watch. I was crying, and I didn't even tell my mom. My mom had no idea what was happening. I would just put on a face in front of my family. And it wasn't until the panic attacks happened where I had to tell friends, like, I needed to move out of my apartment in New York. So to my friend, I was like, okay, can I stay with you for 2 weeks until I, go to Mexico or whatever? She was like, of course. And like letting people in that way. And I realized I was not letting enough people in. Now I'm like, I'm feeling the feels. Let's talk about it. But at that time, I was trying to do the superwoman bullshit of taking it on by myself, and it was crushing me. So I'm curious, like, and Tanya, we'll start with you. Did you let people in at that time? And what was their response to you going through this?
Nah, most people didn't know. I try to keep it together externally. I'm really good at doing that. I've been conditioned to do that. since I was a little girl. If there was turmoil at home, I would walk outside of the house, wipe my tears, put on a smile, like everything's okay. Um, but I couldn't, I, I can't do that anymore. Now I gotta speak the truth. I gotta tell people what's going on because a lot of times it is relatable and people are understanding. And the second leadership team that I hired, like they were concerned. They were genuinely concerned about me. Um, and I felt like I could open up and they're like, "Hey, we're here for you. Let us know how we can help." I'm like, "Wow, no one has ever said that to me." Okay. Um, so yeah, I'm different now. And yeah, a few years ago, I think physically, even with my family, with my husband and kid, I was there physically, but mentally I was not there ever. But now I know how to be there if they need me.
Yeah. And Evie, you mentioned with your team, they saw it, and you cried with one of your team members.
Mhm.
Yeah. Was there anything else in terms of how they responded to you?
Yeah, I also want to give you your props though, because you were going through this at a time where you were also dealing with postpartum.
Period.
And as a woman, I don't have any kids. But as a woman, I just want to give you a moment of like job well done because I can't imagine all of that also dealing with postpartum. I may not be a mom, but I am an auntie, a couple, three over now.
Yes.
And so it's like just being there for family members, for friends, for everybody. What happens, that's such a vulnerable phase of life. And I hope you give yourself credit for going through that. I just wanted to say that before answering.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, for me, I told my team, I told my friends, my closest friends, I've never been scared of vulnerability and I need them. You know, like community is literally I build community. That's one of the things I do. And so I always make sure their reaction was about time. And that
Yeah.
surprised me
Mm.
because it was like, oh, like y'all know. It's just like, yeah, we know. We know
Yeah.
and we know you. So like what?
Go
Like,
take that
you
time,
know?
girl.
Yeah, it was a lot of like, we want you to get your goals. It was also a lot of, Avita, you have built this community and this business out over 13 years. It's a teenager now. You deserve to be able to go full force 100% with the dreams that are just specific to you. I've always wanted my TV show. I've always wanted my book. You know, there's things, there's projects that I want that are me morphing into who I am going to be in this next phase of life and what I want older me to look back and be like, you did that shit, girl. And I have no problem dedicating my late 20s, all of my 30s to No Madness and building out this community. But I also have other shit I want to do. I have other things I
Period.
want to do. I have other dreams. I have other like, and fun shit. Like I want to get to it. And I think one of the big things for me, this is also as a friend, I don't even think you know this, so this is going to be a stunner for you. Let me preface by saying I'm fine because I forget that when I lay this on people and I haven't talked them through it, they like get concerned at first. I'm fine. Also, there was a point in time where I was trying to get pregnant. There was a number of years where I was doing IUI, artificial insemination, with a friend who we had talked about co-parenting, and we went through 2 rounds of IUI, and neither one of them took. And I'm not a person who touches, anxiety will touch me and hold my shoulder. Depression, not so much. If I'm depressed, something's like really, really, really wrong. And it's ironic because they tend to come together. Anxiety and depression, like a lot of times they're co-linked. When I was younger, I think I went through depression, but as I got older and got the skills, it's rare that I'm depressed. Anxious, yeah. Um, with that, one of the things that I found out after my second IUI, after doing hormone testing, is that I have a pituitary tumor in my brain. I have a pituitary adenoma. And it was my OBGYN that flagged it. I had a prolactin level that was super high, and it's only supposed to be high if you're pregnant. And that was one of the indicators. And she told me, she was like, I've seen women with numbers lower than yours that have this pituitary tumor. We need to get you an endocrinologist. We need to get MRIs. Like to this day, I have to take brain MRIs once a year and get blood work a couple times a year. I have a whole medical team for everything. I call my tumor Tasha. I named her Tasha.
Yes,
And
Tasha.
yeah, I named her Tasha. I say, Tasha, just keep it cute. Like, I acknowledge you. You're here. Just keep it cute. You've probably been here for a while. I didn't know you were here. Now I know. And so it's benign, but it's scary. I don't give a fuck. You find out that there's something growing in your brain and your pituitary is the brain of the brain. It's all it's the hormone epicenter, all that shit. So it's like you find that out and you're like, wait, what? And so I think also finding out about Tasha right before my 40th birthday, that was also a breakthrough for me where I was like, fuck all this shit. It's like,
Period.
yo, I was like, bruh, I am not about to spend this next phase of my life this stressed out, all this stuff. Like, are you fucking kidding me? I was just like, absolutely not. And it stopped me in my tracks with my journey for even wanting to get pregnant. I was just like, I don't know. Like now the focus wasn't on having a baby. The focus was on, am I okay? Am I healthy?
Yes.
Like what do I look like? And I haven't jumped back on the baby wagon as of yet. And it's been a couple of years now. It's been about 3 years. And
Yeah.
so life also has a way
Mhm.
of prioritizing things for you,
Yeah.
and sometimes it looks like that, and just being like, no, I want this phase of my life to be fun, to be light, to fulfill dreams that I've had since I was a kid, even before I dreamed up this business and this community. I still want that, and so in many ways the about time, I think also my inner child looked at me and was like, about time. Thank
Yeah.
you. Like,
Yeah.
even my team and everybody who truly knows me and loves me, they all were like, okay, about time.
Yes. Well, thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that, friend. I remember your journey with, and I met your friend that you were
Yeah.
trying with too. But that is scary. I mean, and this makes me think of too, like people have this, I hate this stupid line where people are like, it's just business. I'm like, no, business is deeply human
Yeah.
and we're the ones running it. Life happens. It doesn't stop because we're building these things. And I even think about like in Mexico, I have a lot of friends that came down here on sabbatical from these big tech companies and they were, had everything like, oh, I can take time off and everything's taken care of. As the founders, we are hunting and killing
Yeah.
all
We
the time. Like sabbatical, who's
we
paying
eat
for
what
my
we
this
kill.
this sabbatical,
Yeah.
And I love that for my friends, but I'm like, so I realized I'm like, I don't want to keep building this thing where it's like I have to wait for this one big vacation or time I can take off. It's like I need to build things within the business constantly that gives me space to breathe. And I remember it actually hit me when I was having these really bad panic attacks because I'm like, oh my God, like I feel like I'm losing my mind and it's happening every day. I got to this point with the business. I'm like, it could all burn. Like, I don't want to feel this way. This is not a way to live. It could all fucking burn. And it was literally getting a one-way ticket to Mexico and saying, in a month, I don't know what's going to happen. And then just by sitting with myself, I'm like, I don't want to have to get to these big moments of things just imploding in my face. So I'm curious for both of you through these different breakdowns, what did you experience in terms of how you now show up in your business? Like, how do you create space? So to Evie, your point, you're like, my inner child saying about damn time. For Tanya, it's like, you're like, your team even noticed it. You don't need to push that way anymore. So are you now incorporating different techniques or ways of showing up in your business that gives you space to incorporate this new way of showing up, but also consistent healing so we don't have to keep getting to this breaking point?
Well, for me, what didn't help was obviously forcing myself to keep going when I should have paused, overfilling my calendar because I feel like I constantly have to produce and stay busy, ignoring my body, pretending I was fine. But what helped was stillness and my daily ritual that I've incorporated in the past year. That includes breath work, meditation, journaling. They ground me. And when I do them, I move gracefully throughout the day. I'm calmer. I don't overreact, and opportunities come to me if I'm open to it.
I love that.
Yeah. COVID actually was when I started to rejig and kind of implement certain stuff. One of the things that was running me ragged the first like 8 years was that I was solely executing all of our group trips. And so you're talking about anywhere from like 15 to at the biggest was like 45 groups of people in different countries around the world. And the travel, because I run a travel company, but like the sheer travel and then being at the beck and call 24/7 of those people. And also the lead up. People think it's just the trip, but it takes months of just like lead up, community comms, like all that stuff to execute trips. And I knew once we all had to sit down that I was like, when we come out of COVID, when trips come back again, and at that time we didn't know if trips was gonna come back again because nobody was supposed to be traveling. I was just like, I'm not facilitating these things. And so I had set it up where on my team, Sajal was the, trip ops. She came on the team, wanted to do it. I was like, great, you love this. You love people, all this stuff. Go, please go forth. And on our first trips back, we had like back to back. We had 3 weeks in Cartagena, and we tried out two potential facilitators every week. So my goal was to have a list of 5 to 10 facilitators that at any time we could call on, so that I did not have to go on the trips. And so literally from that at the top of 2021 in Cartagena, literally last month in Costa Rica was the first trip I had been on as a facilitator in 4 years, almost 5 years. That was a huge thing. And I've told Sajal, I was like, you gave me a big part of my life back, because it was very different feeling like I had to be everywhere. It's like, no, these things were being executed. People are highly capable. And I would be on ops here and kind of that person in the back chugging along, but I did not need to be on the ground. And so that getting myself out of the way of having to be on the ground was amazing. That was one of the best decisions. Also
Mm.
for my 40th ended up landing in the middle of a month sabbatical that I took for myself for the first time. I
Amen.
actually embedded a sabbatical. And what I did is I talked my team through it. We all prepped for it so that it wasn't a surprise. It wasn't a shit show. It wasn't any of this stuff when I did it. A number of them also happened to be, I celebrated my 40th with friends in 29 Palms in Joshua Tree. And so we had a big house. We had two houses actually, and we were in the desert. But that month had already been kind of buffered and prepped out way ahead of time. And it was the first time that doing it, I was like, oh, you can do this as a founder.
Mm.
You have to just prepare for it
Yep.
and know it in advance, but also you have to do stuff like that because you need to make sure that you're building that what you're building can sustain without you, right?
Period.
You almost have to do it. Like, and it doesn't have to be a
Mhm.
month the first go round, but you need to take like a blackout 2 week period in your business. And if it crumbles, you have to let it because you've got to see what there's
Mhm.
information in that time period, information on team members, capabilities, systems, all of that shit. You will only find it out if you take a step back. If you're constantly always in it, you're never going to get the information that comes from that period.
Yeah.
And so it was also informative on the back end. And then when I started doing, and I sucked at this year. Honestly, I just forgot this year. But I'm getting back on it because I just said this to somebody else the other day. Is I do blackout periods now quarterly on the calendar where I'm like, this is when I'm not going to be like, don't talk to me. Like this is what it is. And that way
Yes.
it's on the yearly calendar. Everybody can see it. It's not a secret. Things can be planned around it. People know if you need my sign off, insert whatever with something, you've got until this date to get it. After that, you're not going to hear me until I'm out. Starting to embed that stuff and giving the permission. That's what came out of me being like, no, I control this. So what do I need to feel better? And one of them was like, you need to take a week off quarterly to just go ghost. You don't have to go anywhere. You could just sit your ass out and just like rot on the couch, but at least it gives
Yep.
you time to catch up on sleep, if nothing else, And
Yes.
so those were some of the things that I embedded particularly coming out of COVID as a travel brand.
I love this. I'm currently planning for this morning. I started planning for my blackout, my upcoming blackout. So I absolutely love that. And so my final question, and the way I framed it before, as you both were talking, I realized, I wanted to ask if you had any, something you wanted to say to founders currently experiencing a mental breakdown, what would that thing be? But actually, I think would be more helpful is what would you like or would have liked to say or would like to say now to yourself who was in that mental health breakdown? And as you all are thinking about it, I know what came up for me, and this is a huge, I had this, some girlfriends, we all lived in Chicago at the same time. We all live in different places now. And one of the things that came up for all of us is we are such type A overcoming hyper achievers who are going into our soft girl lives, realizing like there's more to life than just business. And one of the things I wish myself back then would have known, it's like you should receive. Your birthright is to receive. And realizing so much of me pushing and pushing was feeling like I wanted to have some sense of control and I want to have some sense of control over my destiny, but it was actually depleting me. It was running me into the ground, and it was actually making me a version of myself that I'm like, I'm not enjoying myself. I'm not enjoying my life. And I'm just going after these things for fucking what? What is this for? Like we talk about legacy, we talk about all these things entrepreneurship is can provide for us from a wealth perspective, but I'm like, I don't want to end up like I have seen this with some friends who it's like you get to the pinnacle, you have all the money, you have all this, but you literally have no fucking joy in your life. What is it for then? What is it for? And so my biggest thing right now is like my birthright is sovereignty. It is in receiving. It is in joy. And I don't need to push to prove myself. Like if there's anything, I know how to make things happen. I can actually scale back, like the event that Tania just came to in New York for female founders and funders. That was me operating at what I would like 50% less than what I would usually do. And it was still exceptional because I realized I'm like, my 100% is someone's 1,000%. And I think that's for a lot of women. So that's what I would want myself back then to know. It's like, you do not have to push to prove shit. And you have a birthright that is in resting, in sovereignty, in softness, and joy. So I'm curious for both of you, what is that?
Well, after my sabbatical in Europe, my perspective was that life is to be enjoyed, not just survived. And I realized family and health matter more than any legacy of business success. And what was the last thing that you said? Yeah, the advice for founders
Mm-hmm.
would be you'll be okay. Everything will be okay, but no one's going to save you. You got to save yourself. Start small with micro changes, find your support system, and restart from there.
Love that. What about you, Evie?
Yeah. I think what I would say to myself is don't forget the art. I think the creativity for me is it's one of my pillars of my existence is creativity. So I would say don't forget the art. Don't get so caught up in it that you forget the art because I kind of forgot the art. And that can go in many different ways. Don't forget the art. As far as what I would say to people now is Hmm. Interesting. It's completely unrelated. It actually has to do with an ex-boyfriend, but I do these like hot take videos on Instagram. And one of them that I did maybe 2 months ago was make sure that their hero is worth their monster. And I would kind of rejig that for business as you're building out and you are becoming this person in this business space. Make sure that your hero, your pinnacle, you at the top of whatever it is, your North Star, make sure that that hero is worth the monster and the monstrous parts that are also going to be a part of that process and come out. Um, yeah, I would say make sure your hero is worth your monster.